Hey Dom.
Hey Dan, well here we are doing the podcast. So we're meant to I know we met briefly before, didn't we? But it's great to do this today. And we've got some really cool subjects to talk about, which I know are prevalent for both of us, which is great. So I guess I better introduce myself. So I'm Dominic Warman. I'm a managing partner at a company called Huckleberry Recruitment. So we specialize in three main verticals. So it's sports, entertainment, and production. Sport being things like football clubs, federations, Formula One, that sort of thing. Entertainment covers a lot of areas for us. But what we mean is predominantly entertainment content. So the stuff that you would buy to watch and enjoy. So that being TV, film, computer gaming, music. We also look after toys because that brings together all of those
Pretty
industries. You know
eclectic.
what happened with Barbie last year,
Yeah.
so that was a big one. And then tech as well within that. And the production side is a slightly newer side for us, which I guess with our topics today about business 2023 and 24 and that sort of stuff, that's probably going to come up because there's a lot of changes we're making in the business to address what was a bad year last year and trying to change and move forward into this year. But by production, we mean roles that are more in front of camera, event type roles. So it could be sporting events, it could be roles on set, such as carpenters and you know, special effects and things like that. And then we also do executive search as well. And the roles that we do within all of this tend to be sort of commercial roles. So marketing, sales. We also do IT roles, so programmers and so on for computer gaming companies and that sort of thing. But it's all mid-management all the way through to senior. We do that in the UK and internationally. We've only got boots in the ground in the UK. Small company, there's only 6 of us. Been trading since 2015. We're remote based, which I know you are as well, aren't you, Dan, on
Yep.
that side? So a lot of synergies there and the difficulties and the positives and negatives of that brings. And that's about it, really. I think that's all people need to know.
Good stuff. Well, I think as we've previously discussed, I think Anita at the TRN did a great matching with us. So obviously, we got the memo on the outfit today, but
We
um,
did.
yes, we certainly did. So I'm Dan Prince. I'm MD of a company called DNA Recruit. So we're coming up to 16 years old, founded primarily on the agency space. So our CEO, Ali Wallace, is an ex-marketeer, and we've built a business on the back of the agency space, and we cover various different sectors within that: marketing, digital, events, client services, project management, and namely exec search as well. But we've also in the last 3 years launched a tech division. So we've got both a tech, which is the primarily front end, back end product and design stuff, but as well as that, we've launched into the emerging tech space, so the Web3 gaming, more niche stuff.
All right.
And as far as size, so we're similar size to you. We right-sized the business last year.
Yep.
Again, I guess reacting to the market, and we're currently 12 heads, including sort of back office and sales support. But what we
Yep.
did do this year is we went all out and we've gone into the US. So we're a UK-based agency, and with a big sort of ramp up plan for the US. So we've got our first hire in that with a sort of a partnership over there as well for resourcing
Ah,
across the East Coast. So
that's
watch this
really
space.
interesting because we've forayed a little bit into the US, but it's always been linked to companies that we're already working with. We've always done it from here, but it always seems so daunting when people talk about expanding into the US. So I'll be interested to hear a bit more about that
Well,
during this.
yeah, it is. And I think we looked at it, we dallied in it at the back end of 2022. But I think reality is you've got to commit a bit of cash
Yeah.
to it,
Yeah.
and you can't, dabble in it. But what we decided from previous hiring strategies, shall we say, we decided to start with feet on the ground, experienced US recruiter, feet on the ground in the UK, and build out from there. And I made reference to the fact we've got a partnership over there with a network of resources, for a small consulting firm over there. We've partnered with on sort of split fee basis, and it's working really, really well. But yeah, you've got to commit to it. You've got to
Yeah.
commit.
Really interesting. Well, we decided in advance, didn't we, what we were gonna talk about
Yep.
today? And I know the big subject for yourself, and it's also been a subject for us, and I imagine lots of other people, is getting the hiring right. So you'd said sort of talking through your experience of 21, so post-pandemic predominantly, I think you wanted to chat about, didn't you? 21,
Yeah.
22. And then into last year, and then we were going to chat a bit about the business 23 into 24, and then also just a bit on personal branding and social media. So a lot to cover. on
Yeah, a
that?
lot to cover. I think
Where do you
all.
want to kick off?
I think, yeah, given that we're both aligned on the subject matter, they're all
Yeah.
very, very important. But for me, and the reason why I initially suggested getting the hiring right is because the recruitment climate of 2021 and 22 is very, very different to the recruitment climate of today and that of
Mhm.
2023. And I guess as a reaction to what happened, we learned a lot. And
Yeah.
that meant what we had to do was get better at hiring, because there's no greater wastage in a business than churn, right? And the
Yeah.
cost of hiring people that don't work out for either way, whether they leave or they part on your terms. But what we did as a leadership team, we pulled together last summer and decided, look, we've messed this up. You know, for want of a better phrase, we've hired, I guess, based on emotion and reputation.
Mm.
We hired a lot via third party rec to recs, where perhaps we weren't as forensic enough about, you know, the basic details, and we trusted that that was being done. But what we decided is we need to understand in DNA what good looks like.
Yeah.
And as part of that process, what we defined was what we'd call 7 non-negotiables. So 7 characteristics that can be explored in different ways that that we feel are absolutely essential in hiring good people, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I know in recruitment, most of our clients, you know, a job spec's a wish list, isn't it? So there's got to be some flex
Yeah.
somewhere. But I guess what, you know, I'm happy to sort of talk through what we agreed are non-negotiables for our business. See what your thoughts are on it. And I guess the big question is what really is non-negotiable, and what can we be a little bit flexible on?
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear about that. And what sort of volume did you hire then back in 21, 22?
So we hired 20
Damage, so
people,
to speak.
20 plus people over
Right,
2021, 22.
right, right.
Um, some worked out, some are
Yep,
brilliant.
yep,
But again, there were some people that purely just due to underperformance or perhaps just
yep,
not being the right marrying of cultures,
yep,
didn't work out. There's, you know, there's an element of we had to react to the market last year and right size the business, and part of right
yeah,
sizing is making difficult decisions to make sure the right personnel are in place. You know, and what we've done is we'd ramped up a fairly big back office team to
yep,
support the growing sales team, but obviously the sales team, the size of the sales team just wasn't able to
yep,
support that. So we had to make some tough decisions around some brilliant people there.
yep.
But yeah, I mean, they were just two different worlds. And I guess what I would say for us, we hired in 2021, 22,
Mm.
thinking the party's going to last forever.
Yes, yeah,
And
so we did the same. So
uh,
we were small and we hired. So I was just trying to think of the exact size we were at the time, but we hired an additional person that we really needed for what was just in front of us at the time in
yeah,
2021, and then went on to hire another 3 more people after that, of which there's 2 of those are left in the business, or 3, sorry, are left in the business. And it's always a case when you're running a business is you're thinking of, the revenue that you're going to earn, right, in that sense, and you're looking at the clients that you've got and you're thinking, right, okay, I need someone to deliver on this. And that's what we had done. And so we went out to market, and it was just such a competitive recruitment market back then, wasn't it? There was
it
loads
was,
of
yeah,
money thrown around, 4 people and so on. And we were limited by what funds we had at the time, of course, and our cash flow. And also, we chose to do it ourselves because our attitude back then, in terms of find the person, so our attitude back then was, oh, we're not going to use a rec to rec. We know our company the best. We're recruiters, so we would basically sort of box out a bit of time that we could perform that rec to rec function for ourselves and go out to market. And we got a good response from it. And and obviously went through the interview process. And actually, I'll be quite interested to hear a bit more about what your interview process looked like and what it's
yeah,
going to look like, and how you're going to actually assess against these 7 key criteria or competencies that you've got in moving forward. Because for us, it's very much a case of meet the whole team during the interview process. So meet the key stakeholders at first, and then actually just meet with everybody, collate all of those opinions and so on to see whether attitudinally and fit wise they're right, whether they align with our values and so on. But it's always a risk, and we were always hiring for the then and not tomorrow. And I mean, like you, we thought the party was going to last for a long time, and it was certainly a ride that we wouldn't want to get off. And then 2023 was a real surprise to us, you know, in
Yeah.
that sense. And people weren't necessarily fit for purpose for 2023. And you know what we needed then wasn't necessarily what we had. So it sounds like you went through the same thing, but magnified on a much bigger level with more people.
Yeah, I think so. I think we were probably comparatively on a bit more of an aggressive growth phase to you,
Yeah,
being I guess, a more established business. But that said, it sounds like your churn was quite respectable comparatively against the rest of the market. It sounds like you've done pretty well. But I
yeah,
guess you've touched on a few points, and like you say, we all, I think the phenomenon, the Great Resignation kicked in early in 2022. We all got FOMO. We all
yeah,
thought that we had to bite talent up quickly, and I guess to answer something you alluded to there, we rushed the interview process. We jumped on it
right.
because we got this FOMO, and we've got to get these people. If we don't snap them up, someone else will. And then we saw salaries being inflated, especially obviously when we were going through third parties where we weren't in control of the negotiations.
Yeah, yeah,
And what we probably did, and I guess I'd bring it down to something that we've really changed is we just weren't forensic enough.
right.
I think we'll both agree there's no art to hiring, there's no science to hiring. You can never guarantee to get it right.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
guess there's so many factors outside of work, people's lives that could impact their performance in work and whether they stay. But for us as a remote business, and I guess for you as a remote business, there's an element that, first of all, the people we hire aren't going to have the benefit of learning by osmosis. They're not going to have those people all around them, which I guess for us meant we had to hire more experienced people, more
Yeah,
senior people,
same,
by default,
same.
more expensive. There's also the element that you don't have the same eyes on. Now, we've got a brilliant tech stack. I don't know about you, but we use Bullhorn as our CRM. We
Yep,
use
same.
Analytics, formerly Cube 19, as a brilliant management tool and self-management tool, which is brilliant because it gives visibility. But the truth is, when you're not in that office-based environment, people don't say, look, quick question. They don't have that ear out hearing what's
Yeah.
going on, what the next person's saying. So we have to rely on a bit of maturity,
Hmm.
certainly, and I'll come on to it. And one of the points for us is the self-motivation piece, because the truth is, if you're hiring remotely and you give people autonomy, and my philosophy is very simple when we hire, right? Basically, hire the best people,
Yeah,
give them the best tools to do the job, let them
yeah,
go. And I don't literally mean let them go. What I mean is hire, the best people. That's down to them and us. The tools we can provide that, and then the let them go is just, I guess, more the management style that I think most companies um, that work remotely have to have, which is more the mentoring and coaching piece rather than that
yes.
directional, that autocracy, which no one really enjoys, right? And
No, no one likes micromanaging, do they? So
that's the word.
we
That's
haven't got the
the
time for
word
it
that
either. So
yeah, that's exactly it. It's the horrible word, but the reality is no
yeah,
one enjoys doing the micromanaging and no one
yeah,
likes being a reciprocator of it.
yeah,
So I guess given that, what we had to do was make a best guess on people's character, their self-motivation, and probably got it wrong, because the truth is when you work from home, there are a lot of distractions, right? Some people have got
right.
partners, some people have got young kids still at
Yeah,
home, not at school, Xboxes, PlayStations, TVs, mobile phones.
washing
Again,
machines.
yeah, exactly. I'm speculating here, right?
Yeah,
But the reality is there's a million distractions that somebody that's not intrinsically self-motivated could get sidetracked for. And that's our first point. That's the first thing when we got together as a leadership team last summer, and the self-motivation piece was the first thing we put down, because we're a remote business, because we rely on autonomy, and we commit to a certain management style, which is that,
yeah.
again, like that mentoring and coaching piece.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, it'll be great to hear the other six as well, actually. But for us, it's very similar, thing. So, our environment and actually being at a lot of the TRN events, I know they talk a lot about having a sort of a cutthroat culture versus a nice culture versus a high performing culture. And what you need is a high performing culture, because
Right.
too many recruitment companies are nice. They've fallen into that because we were also conscious after the pandemic about being the nice employer for our staff, because we were so petrified of good people going because their door was being knocked constantly, that we created these kind of, nice environments for people to work in, which meant that when you are remote, that's a dangerous place to be, isn't it? Because they can switch on the egg box or get the stuff out of the washing machine and so on and so forth. And I know these sound like small things, but they are major distractions,
They are, yeah.
to your day. I mean, look, I'm someone that's been doing this 23 years, and I'm in an office where my apartment is 200 meters away down the road, and I cannot work at home. So I literally come in here and it's an office just for myself in order to be able to work, because I know that even with my amount of experience, I still am not good at that. I can be distracted in that sense. So what on earth's it like for a graduate, or what on earth's it like for somebody that lives in a home environment where they're in a shared household or something like that? We can't make assumptions that people have the same setup. And I think your point's right about making sure that you're getting people that have attitudinally have got that right attitude about being able to work autonomously and actually get that done. And that's very difficult. And we went down the road of hiring and has been sticking to it, of experienced people. And again, even that can be a dangerous game, because you hire them and you've got a lot of assumptions of, okay, but they've done very well in whatever environment they came from, and you try your best to match that environment to what environment they're going to be in with yourself, and you therefore predict that they're going to be okay in moving forward, and you give them all of the tools in order to do that role, and you kind of leave them alone at that point, don't you? Or you want to leave them alone because you think, okay, we're done here. We've hired someone great. We've given them all the tools, and here's a load of, here's jobs. Off you go to the races. And actually, sometimes they don't perform, and you're left kind of scratching your head. And
That's exactly
you're a
it. It's
remote
like, but
company.
you just can't get it, can you?
You can't get it because
All the
they're
evidence
not
says,
next to you. They're not.
everything about it says this is a 300k desk, right?
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I get it. But you actually touched on exactly, I talked about these non-negotiables that we agreed as a leadership team, and you touched on it exactly when you said the competency. So what we did is we rebadged it as what I call a competency framework. So I guess drew all that data in and built a scorecard. Very simple scorecard, mark out of 20, knowing that if someone's scoring 20, 19, 18, they're a definite interview, like in next stage interview.
Okay.
A few points down there is right, let's explore things a little bit more. And then there's obviously a benchmark where it's just, they just don't score high enough on it. So shall I run through what we agreed?
Please. Yeah, because I'm really intrigued to hear these.
So point one, I think we've covered it in abundance. There is the self-motivation piece. So I guess what we mean by self-motivation is, what I really wanted to find out was, what's their why, what are their goals, what are their drivers. And we know mostly with kids, it's the money, right? They want to make money, and sometimes that's just not enough. Those days when this job beats you up, right, and those tough weeks, and you've taken 10 no's, it's you need something greater than that. So I guess for me, I'd want to understand what those drivers are, but also see past evidence of ambition. So where were they previously motivated, or in that environment where they could thrive, and how did they compare against it? The second point, and I think this is something that is just as relevant today, and I know we'll come on to this in our second subject matter, is the resilience piece. And for me, with that resilience is also competitive. We look for competitive people, and I think if people are both competitive and resilient, and I get some people would maybe separate those, but I've badged them together because what I'd see is the competitive is where people have had a challenge ahead of them and they want to resolve that and use the resilience piece to do it. There's an argument with resilience. Is it nature versus nurture? Is it, are you born resilient? Do you grow resilience? I don't know.
You want the resilience to mean something, don't you, in that sense? So people can be resilient, but not necessarily be super ambitious in that sense. So you need it to be hand in hand, especially with your kind of business, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess some of the subheadings, if you like, of what we're looking for, they can maybe come across as a bit judgy, maybe not a bit not very flexible in today as well. But I guess something that I look for in people as part of that competitive and resilient piece is evidence of sport.
Oh, okay.
Have people It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be a hobby. It could be
Yeah.
archery, or it could be yoga. But
Yeah.
evidence that people have had a challenge ahead of them where they've had to get through a certain pain barrier to get good at something.
Yeah.
Most sports are like that. Some people are just born athletes, right, because of muscle mass. But my
Yeah.
sport, golf, I know how hard it is. You have to suffer so much before you actually enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And I guess that suffering part of the journey is the resilience piece. And I'm not saying we want to hire people to make them suffer, but we need to know that they've got it in them. And I
You want
guess,
them to have some kind of hobby whereby, whether it's like you say, if it's not a sport, something whereby they're trying to better themselves at.
yeah,
That's
exactly
not
that.
work in that
That's
sense.
exactly it.
They're really driving to just improve, whatever
And
that may be.
it could come down, and like I said, it comes across as potentially a bit judgy, but it's a broad
Yeah.
thing, and it could just be something as simple as self-development, right?
It could be it could be someone taking singing lessons. It could be anything.
Yeah, or even just reading the best personal development books,
Yeah.
the growth books, because that's a sign of someone with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Yeah, I've
Right?
got you. I get it. Yeah.
So, and then the third point, which I guess we segue into that, is the team player piece. So although we're a remote business, we need to know that we rely on knowledge sharing, we rely on good relationships. We've got a commission split flowchart in our business. So if you hand over a freelance job to a perm recruiter, or let's say our tech guy handed over an events job to our head of events, what there is, we've got a reward scheme there. So there's 25% of that revenue goes onto their numbers to get paid from. So we need to encourage that team playing. And I guess what I mean by that is, we've probably all seen it in our 20 odd years of recruitment. People tend to get siloed, especially when you're working from home. You can just be in your own world. And the evidence suggests that if you're a multiplier of all the parts of that team, you're going to achieve more as a unit, I guess.
What do you do in terms of collaboration beyond that, in terms of meeting up, et cetera, et cetera? So remotely, are people based all around the UK, or are they in a geographical?
Yeah, so we are typically fully remote throughout the UK. We have been even more diverse geographically at some points as we were sort of looking into other regions. But what we do. So good question, because I guess it's part of our culture piece, which we'll come on to. But we hire people that enjoy the privilege, and I will call it a privilege, because I think being able to work remotely and insulate yourself from the 20 quid on a sandwich in Pret, and however many £1,000 a year on the train, but also that dead time that you experience traveling, right?
Yes.
We still need that piece of people that want to engage, that want to be part of the team. So what we do is we have a monthly team day, and we're encouraging now more. We've got a remote office space, a really good office space in St Pancras. So we encourage people so we do once a month, we have a team day where we collaborate, we work together. It's a working day. We use that as a base for our candidate and client meetings. And then we go out for dinner and drinks on the company. So it's like a mini lunch club, really, but it's about, getting to know your colleagues, just chatting openly and just finding out how life is, right? As well as the using that as a base. But if people want to go into London and do a couple of days from St Pancras, then we can facilitate that as well.
They
That's
can
absolutely cool.
So we do similar things. So we've got something we call Team Tuesday. So we do that once a month. And again, so we, rather than an office, we use a members club in London. Everyone gets together, and there's only 6 of us, as I mentioned. But
you're not Soho House, are you?
It's not Soho House, it's Home House, actually.
Home House, oh yeah.
They've got a place called Homegrown down the road, which is more for work. So you're not, who wants to be the person sat on a laptop nursing a cup of coffee all day in a members club? You don't want to be that person, do you? So Homegrown,
you can have a beer.
Exactly. It's a little bit more amenable for work, but we tend to go in there, and it's more about that collaboration piece which you're talking about. So everyone isn't sort of suddenly sat in a room all just sat on their laptops searching on LinkedIn or something. It's more just get to know each other, conversation, things that are going right, things that are going wrong, just all that richness that you always got in an office that you just miss out on when you're siloed and isolated in your world. That information around the client, so talk through all the clients as to what's going on where, good news stories, bad news stories, everything like that, mixed in with a bit of alcohol and wine and a nice lunch, and like you were saying, I thing out in that sense, and it works really well. It sort of keeps it alive. And then for those that can access London, more frequently, then I'm always in there once or twice a week. So I'll meet up with them, whoever they may be, once or twice a week. So to try and keep that going in that sense. So it is an interesting one. If it is with regard to your office in St Pancras, I think you mentioned it is. Do you think there'll ever be a time where you can house people in that more in that sense, and hire
Well,
people who want to
honestly,
be
it's
based
something that we're talking about now because, again,
there?
we've got to react to the current economic climate.
Yeah,
We've got to react to the current market, and I guess learn from the last year. If we look at 2023 as a challenging year in the industry, and
yeah,
again, this is all about, I guess, why you and I are both so keen to engage and have this meeting today is what can we learn, right? How can we get better? How can we learn from our mistakes? But how can we, I guess, climatize to the market of today? And you touched on it about hiring people for tomorrow, and that's exactly what I think. What we did as an industry, probably we hired for the market of today in 21, 22, and didn't have an eye on what the market of tomorrow was. And we know recruitment's cyclical. We know that we were at the highest of highs in 2022, right? So the market of tomorrow is only ever going to be more challenging, right?
yeah.
So, we had to react to it. But will we go back into London? There's no firm intention to do so, but I think there's a strong argument maybe to shift our hiring strategy potentially to hire younger people, because I guess with that you get more hunger.
Yep.
You get that, again, I've touched on it before, learning by osmosis. You get the culture piece that you talk about with your team days. So I think there's an argument for it. It's not in our immediate plans, but let's be open as well. Hiring more junior people, they're also going to be a little bit cheaper. And we don't like that word, but it's when you're looking at the bottom line.
It works. It's just really hard because you need to do the right thing by them, and you need to input a huge amount of time into the graduates or the younger people that you bring into your business, and that either needs to be from leadership, people like yourself, Dan, or it needs to be from their direct line managers. And we all know that the biggest billers don't necessarily make the best managers in that sense, within the business. And so getting that right is really difficult. We've made a misstep doing that, in the past, and actually having, really good people come into the business that may have been, mentored and looked after by the wrong other person that we thought we were doing the right thing for. And actually we were doing the wrong thing for both of them in the end. And they both didn't perform as well as they could do. So that's been really difficult. But we've on the 2023-24 subject, which I know we're meant to cover off, and we're rapidly going to.
I think we are kind of we're
going to run out of time, but
in and out of it, aren't we?
On that subject, in terms of I guess being more nimble and agile and adapting for the market, we obviously identified we were having a hard year very early on in 2023, and our sectors have a relative amount of clarity as to what it's going to look like in the near future. For us, we deal a lot within film and TV, and of course there were strikes last year, so it's quite easy to see that that's going to have a negative effect on the industry. So we need to sort of look to pivot. What we actually did is we had a change of shareholders within our business, and so we've effectively been acquired by a business that sits within film and TV to allow us to and to leverage that relationship to move into this new area of production, which sits harmoniously with what we already do. We already do film and TV, but it's predominantly on the distribution side of things. And now we can look after the whole life cycle of that journey of making a movie or a TV show. And so going on that, doing that is going to be a way that we're going to, obviously try and protect our revenues and so on and grow in 2024 by setting up this new, area. Now, going back to the office side of things, on production, it's a little bit different. And so we've had the conversation about an office come up literally in the last couple of weeks, because this has all just happened for us on the 8th of Jan. This
really?
happened, so it's all brand new. And we've started to talk to some of the film studios, and some of the film studios is in the actual studios where you make films, not the big, not the Sonys and the Warners and so on, who are obviously people that we know. And we've said to them, how would this look and feel? Because we're talking about, you know, people whereby hundreds and hundreds of temps, you know, on the industry and so on. How do you access them? And of course, the answer is you pretty much are going to need to have an office in that sense on the studio, whereby you're just super accessible and people can come backwards and forwards. And we sort of sat there and thought, okay, we're a remote business, and then now we're talking about having that. But of course, on the temp side of things, we all know that a lot of it is administrative tasks that you do on the temp side. And of course, we can set up a tech stack to automate as much as we can. But naturally, that's going to lend its hand to the more junior nature candidate that we're going to bring into our business. And again, it's difficult to do that when you're remote. So we, like you, are thinking the way of addressing this in 2024 and actually to get this off the ground successfully is probably going to be to invest in an office. And hire when, you know, when we are doing the hiring, it'll probably be people more of that nature, and have someone like me or my business partner actually sat there almost full time, nurturing those individuals and getting them to really sort of live and breathe our values and really be who we need to be in the marketplace. So it is an interesting one, because although we are hybrid, you know, the team always talk about missing an office and things like that as well. So I think we are going to adapt and kind of have the best of both worlds, but
Yeah,
it's certainly a tough one, isn't it, to make these. You don't want to.
it is. It sounds like you've nailed down a really good strategy there. You know, going back to your change of shareholding, I think that's a brilliant move, and I think you're probably right. And there's an argument to say that why couldn't you have a rookie school? You know, why couldn't you
Yeah,
have an office for the let's call them the kids,
that's a
right, and
great
then get
idea.
them through. But and I
Yeah,
think, you know, I saw your eyes light up there. I think you obviously enjoy seeing people thrive, helping people grow, and I think it's another angle. It's a culture piece as well. So there's no reason why you know, you've touched on sometimes the best billers aren't the best leaders, but there's no reason why you couldn't send one day a week one of those top billers in just to walk the floor and support those
yeah,
guys. So there's loads of ways it could work. So yeah, I absolutely love that. And I guess that actually again leads on to my next point around what we've built into our competency framework, which is tech savvy. And
yeah,
I guess you talked about potentially being able to build a tech stack around your staff, around the people you've got in the business. And what we've definitely seen around hiring, sometimes the more experienced people, particularly people that maybe run their own business, are less tech savvy in this
yeah,
world. I mean, we use video software. We sell it as part of our productized offering. We obviously use Bullhorn. We've got the, you know, all automations. We've got Bullhorn Analytics. We've got the best RPS license on LinkedIn, and that requires people to know what they're doing as well as the other
yeah.
stuff we've got. So I guess an area where we've found it challenging is people that are coming into business where they've been working off Excel spreadsheets. That's their data,
Right,
or
right.
they've just been a phone and a desktop.
Yeah,
Whereas we operate off mobiles. We've got soft phones for our international people because we do have some people offshore. You know, it's really important that people get tech, that get CRMs, that get data, because you're only as good, right, as the data you're putting onto the database, aren't you? Really.
yeah, exactly,
And
exactly. We do too little of that as of the moment. So we're not quite Excel. So we're beyond that. We use Bullhorn and obviously you know, as you said, sort of LinkedIn and so on. But because we're small, and because the team we've got, we did what you did. So we slimmed down last year. So what we've got is a very, very high performing six
yeah,
people in the you know, within the business. And that's going great. And you know, when it's good, right? But obviously, as we expand, we're going to need to make sure that we're, you know, looking at things a little bit more carefully. And also, if we are going to be expanding what is in effect going to be a temp business and a freelance business, we're talking huge volumes here. So we need to have
yeah.
that tech stack, you know, in place, and make sure that that works. So, you know, I'm trying to get at the moment as much help as I can to figure out what we do and don't go with from a tech, you know, perspective. And that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? I'm on every single.
Well, lucky you're part of the TRN, because I think
I
that
know, I
the
know. That's the
peer-to-peer
whole
knowledge
like
sharing is good, isn't
the
it?
AI stuff going on and things like that is all the whole thing. But I know, I mean, I guess this segues into in a way. I'll try and move it into it, just thinking of time and stuff. From the tech perspective and everything, we also both wanted to talk about social media and branding, didn't we? Of both ourselves, I think, and also the whole of the teams that we've got. And because we were both commenting, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first time we've done something like this. So
Yep.
even us ourselves said that we felt nervous prior to doing it. And actually,
That's a secret.
yeah, arguably it should be us with our name up in
Yeah, yeah.
lights a lot of the time and actually doing videos on LinkedIn and all the rest of it. And I think when we were talking before, I said I see people doing this, other recruitment leaders and so on. And when you go to, say, the TRM meetups, you can instantly recognize who they are. And none of them are reinventing the wheel with the content of which they're talking about. You watch it and you think, oh, I know that, or blah, blah, blah. But they're the ones doing it and we're not. And that's the same with the consultants and things like that. And we were saying the importance of what is it important? Should we all be doing that? What should we
Well,
be doing, if anything? So
I can share some stats because, as I
yeah,
said
go
to
on.
you,
It's a great
I had a
question.
meeting before this with our head of marketing, Monica, who was brilliant. I mean, the data tells us we have to embrace personal branding. And a lot of people, I guess, when I joined this business 3 years ago, the business had already embraced the power of socials, right? And
Yeah.
I was immediately sent on a personal branding course with Hoxo Academy, which was brilliant. We sent all subsequent members of the team on it. But the truth is, I came into the business thinking, look, this isn't Facebook, this is LinkedIn. It's a professional networking site, not a social media site. But
Yeah.
how wrong I was, how wrong I was.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the reality is, by getting your name out there, by posting, whether it be photos, thought leadership, something personal, you're getting engagement. And
Mm,
they say that some of the most engaging posts can be controversial. Some of
mm.
the most engaging posts, I think the posts I've had the most engagement on a personal post, posting about one of my kids or
Yes.
a sport. But the
Yep.
data that, some interesting industry insight, and I can't quote the source of this because this has come by my marketing manager, but the points that I think are most striking is that 70% of hiring managers say that a strong personal brand is more important than a strong resume on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. When I say resume on LinkedIn, I consider a LinkedIn profile to be a resume, so either or. Um, Content shared by employees receives 8 times more engagement than content shared by brand channels. Power of the people. So it's the
Right.
multiplier
Yeah.
effect of people in your team. So if they're getting that content out, and I think the key now is LinkedIn's constantly changing its algorithms and
Mm.
how it scores you. So now there's an argument that if one of your colleagues posts, don't just reshare it, repost it, but with your own comments, add your
Yes.
hashtags, add
Yeah.
your subject line to maximize that out. Another point that I drew on here: brand messages get 561% more reach when shared through employees' personal accounts than through the company brand account. So again,
Okay.
it's the power of the individual,
Yeah.
and it's I guess for us as business leaders, getting our team to engage and
Mm.
to embrace. I think the key
Yes.
is embracing, because I mean, I've got mates my age that don't have any social media, no Insta, no Facebook, nothing, and are pretty anonymous on LinkedIn. They're missing
Yeah.
the trick.
Yeah.
Obviously we're in a slightly different industry,
Yeah.
but I think that data there just tells us that we've got to get our names out there, and I think that goes through every level of the business. So whether that
Yeah.
be us, talking, doing the sort of thing we're doing today,
Yeah.
podcasting,
Yeah.
or thought leadership, white paper, whatever it is, but go hand in hand with any money we spend on the SEO piece and
Yeah.
what have you. It's it's something that I can honestly say I was like, nah, not for me, and I've opened my eyes to it.
Yeah, and I agree with 100% with everything that you said. And I think, even for us, we can see quite easily just from the analytics that you get on LinkedIn posts that posting from our brand, which we've got two, we've got Huckleberry or Huckleberry Sport, the main two brands that we use, gets far less traffic than if it's me or if it's one of my, colleagues or something actually posting the content. But for us, the challenge has always been, both for myself and actually for everybody. So I'm as guilty with everything that I'm saying right now, is actually doing those posts in the first place. So coming up with the content to do. I was speaking to someone else that runs another business, a recruitment business, and they said that they literally do 4 posts a week and they get Chat GBT to write it for them. So they use AI, and
Yeah.
they just edit it slightly.
I think that's the key. I think it's
You've
a
got to edit
brilliant
it a little
tool.
bit.
AI is powerful. Again, I'm a bit skeptical about certain aspects of AI,
Yeah,
chatbots being one,
exactly.
but I think that's brilliant. I mean, why not embrace, it goes into what we talked about earlier, the tech piece. Embrace
Yeah,
tech, but put your human,
got to
your
put
human
humans
eyes
on
over it, right?
exactly. Otherwise, I think a lot of people can tell, especially if it's not sounding like yourself or what any of your other posts would. But for us, it's about getting the staff to do that in the first place and actually do that level of engagement. So I think they've been quite guilty of that, as have ourselves. Certainly most of the posts typically that recruiters do are about the jobs, aren't they, that they're recruiting and
They
things.
are, and again, that's where the personal element comes in, right? I mean, you look at my CEO, Ali Wallace. He takes a photo wherever he goes. The
Yeah,
amount of selfies that go online
yeah,
are incredible, but the engagement. So we entertained a load of clients at the weekend at Twickenham. We get
yeah,
access to England tickets. He took a bunch of clients, posted a few photos of the stadium, the beers, the match day. The
yeah,
engagement has been phenomenal. I mean, I've
yeah,
seen not only the amount of likes and comments, but the impressions on it through the roof. And
yeah,
that's, is it business? Is it personal? It's probably a marrying of two things, right? All the people that went and love rugby, all the people that went and love a Guinness, and
yeah,
it's business. So
yeah,
yeah, it's really important to do it. And I guess that comes on to there was just two more points that I had on our what our non-negotiables are. And one of those was sort of cultural fit and values.
yeah,
And part of us hiring now, we need to hire people that are culturally comfortable in that world, that embrace social media, because we've hired people, I guess, that are very, very close-minded,
mm,
almost anti-social media, and it's been difficult getting
mm,
them to come along the journey, especially given that we operate primarily in the agency space. That's the
mm,
nature of that
yeah,
world. We've
yeah,
got to make sure people culturally buy into that. And then obviously the last point for us, which I'm sure every recruitment company, every hiring manager would say, is a track record of billings, a career
yes,
history. So we
yeah,
look for, one, obviously, is longevity. Two
yeah,
is obviously hitting the number. The magic number has always been for me that 200k plus.
hmm,
And then the third thing, I guess, as a result of our hiring in 21 and 22 that we've adjusted to now, is we like to hire people. We look to people that have worked in what I'd call a normalized market, the pre-COVID recruitment markets. I think if people
yeah,
have worked in that world,
yeah,
this world's not such a shock.
yeah, exactly. The normal world in that regard.
Exactly that.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree with you. Completely. And coming back to what you said, the point just before this one about them being, I guess, social media savvy, or at least open to it, and what you were saying about Ali. I think you said your CEO, posts. He takes a selfie kind of everywhere. You think about us and the industries that we recruit for. Our sports businesses, they are major Hollywood film studios or gaming companies and things like that. So even just being in their offices is a selfie moment most
Oh
of the
God,
time.
just that
And
you
so
next to the logo, right?
yeah,
It's
exactly. Just be
massive.
able to do that. And actually, we've been super guilty of because I've recruited for this kind of industry for 23 years now. I need to think like that and think actually that this is really interesting for the audience in that
Oh
sense
God,
out
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
I need to pick up my phone and do a little quick video or something and be able to post it, same as any of our consultants do, because we often talk behind the scenes about how excited we were to go to X company and they had this and they had this helmet from this person and blah blah blah. And we
And I
should
bet
really
you,
be
you bump
capturing
into a
that.
few celebs, do you, as well?
Yeah, but yeah, less so these days, but in the old days. But I think to capture all of that and share, what we're feeling about it is super, super important. And that's where we've been missing a trick. And that was one of the, I guess it goes across all of the points that we've been making today is, I think we need to be doing more of that as an industry. And less of it being the dark arts, which a lot of people feel it is,
Yeah,
kind of behind the
I
scenes.
think
I think we
both matter,
need to be
right? But
more
I think
open.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, you are probably in the most exciting space you could be in to enjoy that, because it's
Yeah,
your engagement levels, I imagine, would be through the roof. For someone like me, I'd be like, oh wow, that's really cool, and I'd
yeah,
click on the photo. I'd want to zoom in and see if I could see
yeah.
anyone. That's a really cool space to be in. So why wouldn't you want to leverage that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I did a post recently because I was at the toy fair and it was literally me with Pikachu. and a couple of other characters, alpha blocks and things like that. And it
Oh,
got
amazing.
more engagement than my previous 4 posts about roles in that
Of
sense. And I
course.
thought, there you go, that's what it's
Power
about.
of socials.
I know, exactly, exactly. Well, I think we probably covered it off. I'm just conscious of time. I think we've
I
run
guess,
over.
yeah, exactly. I think maybe just to wrap up, I mean, it would be
Yeah,
good
yeah.
for maybe you and myself just to give our views on the market of 2024. So do you want to
Yeah,
jump in
exactly.
first?
So for us, I mean, it's interesting. So we've got our sports area really bounced back. So it had a during the pandemic, complete nightmare. It was all locked down, right? So people weren't going and experiencing sports, whereas our gaming, division was doing absolutely brilliantly because everyone was sat at home, playing computer games. And we always have, even though it's sports and entertainment, they're all intrinsically linked. It's all content, it's all intellectual property, it's bums on seats watching things and stuff like that. They do all perform differently, but they're different industries at the end of the day. And so we had overall, it was a really tough year. So we were about 20% down just overall as a business last year. So really, really hard year. Our sports area is been going great guns at the end of last year into this year. All signs are showing that that's continuing to go really well. So that's a kind of a if it ain't broke kind of scenario. Let's just leave that and carry on. TV film had its challenges. Everyone thought that when the strikes ended, it would just be bang, and everyone's suddenly filming again, and all of that. That hasn't transpired to be true. Things are coming back slowly but surely, but actually the market's increasing. So we know we're good in that area, but overall we felt pretty nervous because it was the lack of visibility. So we got really, really close to our clients kind of halfway through last year and have continued that. So lots of just out and about as much as you can, FaceTime, get in front of them, find out what's going on, get as many touch points as the business as you can. However, sort of random it feels, you're going to get something from it, right? In that sense. So we're just instilling that across everybody, just chat, chat, chat. And it still remains, as I sit here today, that kind of lack of visibility a lot. And I don't know how it is in your sectors, but a lot of the clients are saying, we've got all this pent up hiring we need to do, Dominic, but we're waiting for April, or we're just doing natural attrition at the moment, or business critical roles. And come March, April, May, we'll be able to let you know. So that was part of the reason why during last year, it took a long time for the acquisition to go through. Of course, we started on that in May last year, and it's only just happened. But we were doing that to protect ourselves, to know that actually there is this other bit that we need to move into that is going to add tons to the bottom line. And not only that, it will be amazing for the industry that we're trying to do it. So there was that aspect to it of saying actually we could potentially change the way something's done here. So for us, 2024 looks challenging. I think it's going to be another difficult year. But I think given that we've got a number of new strings to our bow, all of us are super, super excited about it. And it's something that we're really getting our teeth into, and hopefully we'll see the fruits of our labours a bit later in the year. So that's kind of where we're at. It's a bit of a weird one because it's not like we're the same company going into 2024. There's been a lot of changes going on for us behind the scenes. So hopefully it'll all be good and the master plan will work out, but we'll wait and see. What about yourself?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I couldn't agree with you more, first of all, about the getting out there, the touch points and the getting back out there. I think COVID made a lot of people keyboard warriors, hid
Yeah,
behind computer screens. So that's part of the hustle piece that I think is absolutely necessary in this world. And you talk to James Osborne at TRN, and he says it's all about the hustle.
he
It's
does. Yeah.
all about getting in front of your clients, whether that's on video or face to face, beer, whatever it is. So, yeah, thoroughly agree on that. I guess for us, on the macro level, my view on the market is similar to yours. It's going to be a tough year. The economy is going to be stagnant. I think growth predicted at 0.4%. Inflation coming down, but not as low as it should be. So I think it's going to be a tough year. I think there's a lot of caution out there, for want of a better phrase. You talked about it there, where your clients are saying, "No, we'll wait till April." I think people took such a hit on the bottom line. They were so far off budget last year that they're cautious. But I guess the sentiment I'm getting from you is cautiously optimistic. you've got the strategy right. And I think that's exactly the same for us. So what we've done differently, obviously, we've gone into a new region. So we've gone into the States this year. We've got a new product offering. We acquired last year a business. We acquired Hidden, which was an embedded offering, which we're rebranding as DNA. So we're launching
Wow, congrats.
Project DNA, which is our embedded offering. So we're just waiting for the right time, because obviously it relies a little bit on volume hiring, depending what it is. So I think we've got a couple of different revenue streams. We know job flow is lower than it was in 2022, and I think will remain low. But look, the reality is, if good recruiters keep doing all the basic things that good recruiters do, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
well,
certainly certainly keeps us going and keep us up at night sometimes with everything that's going on.
That's it. Look, who hasn't lost sleep over the last year or so, right?
My hair wasn't as grey as it was, Dan, this time last year.
Hey, let's just enjoy being salt and pepper. Let's enjoy that. But listen, Dom, it's been amazing catching up with you. I look forward to seeing you face to face at one of the TRN events as well.
Yeah, it's been really good. Really enjoyed this. I think for our first one, yeah, it's been good. We just about got through everything, and we've gone over.
But hey,
I'm sure we're not going to get in much trouble for it, so we'll be all right.